Now, guys, I'll leave it to you guys. What questions do you guys have for Damien or myself that you guys want us to answer? I'll give you guys a good, 2 to 3 minutes to ask us questions. But I love the fact that Damien hit on it. There are over 300,000 open tech roles right now. There's not enough people to fill those roles here in the United States. There's more than that, to be honest with you, right? There's more than that because a lot of these tech roles that you're talking about are technical. And we're talking about sales, which is non-technical. So the roles are out there. The roles are certainly out there. The question is can you get them? Are you going to take those lumps? I'm like, what Damien basically says, he kept it real just now. He burnt himself out. He said he isn't going to be right for, some weeks until he actually recovers because he spent 8 hours a day plus in his office filling out these applications, putting in the work. Ultimately, it led to success. So if that needs to be your path in order for you to make the transition into your career, that's the route that you need to take. That's what we talk about here on the Black Heights channel, right? But also make sure you're doing the things that you need to do in order for you to eliminate that burnout. Well, I was telling Damien, man, let's get to the winery. Let's get out, go for a walk, do your yoga, do all this other stuff. Because I know he was going to put in the work until he landed that role. And let's just say it didn't take 2 months. Let's say it took 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 months. You can't sustain that sort of, pressure on yourself, putting in the work 6 hours, 7 hours, 9 hours a day, filling out applications, researching companies and so forth. That's a lot of work, guys. That is a lot of work. So make sure that you are balancing that with going outside, breaking up, doing that sort of stuff, going to shoot some basketball, spend some time with your wife, spend some time with your kids and so forth in order for you to, eliminate the aspect of burnout and so forth. So that was great tips. That was great tips, Damien. Let's go to the chat real quick. The Life of Cam said, what advice would you give to a service member with tech experience looking to transition into a tech role in the civilian sector? What advice would you give, Damien, to somebody who's a service member today who has tech experience,
oh, man,
but they're looking to transition in a tech role in the civilian sector?
I would say if you have a security clearance, try to find a job with a security clearance. There's a lot of companies and recruiters out here looking for tech experience, military background with security clearances. So if you got a security clearance, try to keep it active and look for those roles. Nobody told me that when I got out, so I let my security clearance lapse. And you have a priority when you go look for federal jobs. I forget what the website is, but Google federal jobs, and that's a good resource to get in the civilian world, working those federal jobs. Their process is slower than the civilian world. I can promise you that. But that's it. You want to start early because it might be months before you hear anything.
Get them out there, guys. Get the process going and get started today. But one of the things that he also mentioned is, guys, if you're in the military, make sure you get your clearance, especially in cybersecurity, right? We dropped the level cybersecurity course done by Josh Madakar. And one of the things that he mentioned is that people who have a security clearance, they're getting higher paying jobs. Yes, it does take a little bit longer for them to land that job, but they're getting higher paying jobs in the cybersecurity world, guys. So that is, if that's an advantage for you folks who are in the service and also coming out of the service. And that's really good game that Damien is sharing with you to make sure that you don't let your security clearance lapse. So that's absolutely fantastic. Well, guys, that's the show I wanted to do today. I wanted to make sure that we gave a success story, right, of somebody who's gone through it, somebody who's gone through a layoff, right, because it impacts all of us, right? Somebody who's gone through the layoff, how they're able to bounce back, right? They got hit, they kept getting hit, they kept getting up until where they won the fight at the end of the day because they landed the road that they wanted to land. But when you think about it, there was a lot of preparation in between that. There was a lot of practice from the applications process, the interview process, understanding the terminology of sales and whatever field that you're looking to break into. You have to have a lot of practice. So when people who come to me and say, hey, Antoine, when should I be applying for course careers, or when should I be applying for a job? I'm like this: apply when you get into course careers, because there's at least 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks before you even start to get the interview, before you even start to get the interviews. So go ahead and apply now versus waiting until after you're done and then applying, which is then is another 2 weeks, then another 2 weeks, and so forth, right? So apply as early as possible. What's the worst thing that you're going to get? A no. You're going to get them anyway. You're going to get them anyway, right? They're going to come towards you. So you might as well get used to them. And there's going to be multiple yeses, though, as you go along this path. So go ahead and get started now, my guys. And Damon, I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your story, man. What a fantastic story that you were able to share with the folks here. Let me see if there's another message in here in the chat that you can potentially get answered here. I'm getting close to finishing a boot camp. As someone who works 130 hours every 2 weeks, how would you suggest navigating the interview process? That's a good question, Scott. So, brother Scott from Operations Tech Takeover, go and check him out, guys. Says, I'm getting close to finishing the boot camp. As someone who works 130 hours every 2 weeks, right? How would you suggest navigating the interview process, Damien?
Man, you're going to have to 130 hours every 2 weeks. You're going to have to allot some time for interviews. Man, you just got to make a sacrifice. I don't know what hours you're working, but typically, man, them interviews come during the day from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So when you get an interview, usually they'll give you a couple days notice. So hopefully you can have time with your current employer to, I don't know, get a couple hours off, go to a quiet room, do what you got to do to get the interview done. That's a tough one. Yeah, you're gonna have to figure out your schedule.
That is tough, Scott. 130 hours every 2 weeks. So that's let's just say this. That's 70 hours a week. So that's basically 65 hours every single week that you're working, right? And I'm not sure what shifts that you're on, but yeah, you're gonna have to find some time to be able to balance that, or cut back on your work week, right? And if you're doing it for a specific reason, that's, you're going to have to make that sacrifice, especially if you're looking to make the change into a role that is going to eliminate you having to work so hard. 65 hours in a week that's pretty normal, but you got to have to figure out some time where you can actually get some interviews in. You're going to have to figure out some time where you're actually going to be able to get some applications in. Ultimately, if you don't do that, you're not going to get to where you ultimately want to get to. Right, so there's going to have to be a sacrifice that you execute on that, my man. Big bro Damien, what would you say to those that say racism is why I can't get ahead? Go ahead and give that one, Damien. That was from my big brother KB.
Well, yeah, you can't. I mean, I'm gonna say do what you gotta do, and you can make it. A lot of people say don't have a chip on your shoulder. I say, bull. I do have a chip on my shoulder, but I just don't show it. I'm just as likable. When people get to know me outside of the black community, they forget that I'm a black person. They just know me as Damien. Because a lot of them are shocked and surprised that we have so much in common. That's a lot of misconceptions with people like us. Like, what they see on TV and media is not what's real. Like, you get around the black house community, you're gonna be around a bunch of intelligent, probably mostly black people, some handsome, tall, young men. I mean, these fellas is doing it. And I keep a little chip on my shoulder. It helps me. It keeps me motivated, but it's not. I don't use that as an excuse or a crutch, even though I know it's the reality of things. Like, you can overcome it. I promise you. I mean, just have that pride in knowing that you had to work harder than that next man to get where you are.
I love it. I absolutely love it, man. Well, guys, that's the show for today.
A tough question.
Say it again, Damon.
That's a tough question, but I like it. I mean, it's real, but and another thing you mentioned, Antoine, is like, pay attention to what you're paying attention to. If you're just involved, or just if you're just watching YouTube all day long about all this stuff, like, get away from it. I haven't watched local news in probably 15, 20 years. it's just a scare tactic.
Mm.
But that's not how really people, just when you meet people, like just be a person. Quickly, you will disarm them. They're like, oh shit, this is a real person. Like
Mm.
they'll disassociate that stereotype or whatever their knowledge they have about you or people like you.
Mm.
Just be a person, and
Mm.
you're gonna break the gates down. They're gonna have to let you in because you're a real person. They probably want to meet you. They want to know you, and they're more curious about you than you are about them.
Mm. 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 I love it. I love it. I just say this, Damien, right? And I love that you hit it. There isn't going to be anything that stops you. It shouldn't be anything that stops you. And it shouldn't be that, right? It definitely shouldn't be that at all because, you're in control of ultimately what it is that you accomplish within your life. And yes, we know that there's disadvantages for certain people. There's disadvantages for people with certain skin colors. There's disadvantages for people with certain hair types. There's disadvantages for people who have certain kind of conditions that they were born with or in wheelchairs and so forth, right? But ultimately, if you want to succeed at just about anything, right, it is overcoming those obstacles, taking those punches, right, but getting back up and getting back up. And that's what we talk about. That's what we talk about on this channel is you don't let anything stop you. Right? I'm like, there's no boogeyman that's out here that's going to be so interested in you, failing to where they're going to be thinking about you failing so much to where they're going to forget about their own life. Everybody's have their own shit going on in their lives to where they have kids or family members or cousins or a mom or dad. And they have those things to focus on. So nobody else is really paying attention to you, thinking that they're going to be stopping you from getting to ultimately where it is that you want to get to. Right. We understand that there's certain structures that exist and, certain people that exist in certain places. And it's so easy for them to recognize, the same sort of people to make them feel comfortable. But that's where Damien comes in that. And that's what he said is important. Most people are curious about people who aren't like them. So be likable. Tell your story. Enjoy yourself, right? Be yourself. Don't try to be anybody else. Be yourself. And you realize that people are here to ultimately help you versus to stop you from doing certain things. Yeah, there's times where you will potentially get stopped or where somebody will cause you to climb that extra step. Well, go around, hop over, use your brother, your Black Heights member to put a trampoline in front of you so you can jump over them bitches, right? Well, sorry, my French, you're using the wrong language, but so you can jump over them, right? So that's the mentality that we need to have versus always having that mentality of this is going to stop you. This is going to stop you. And if you watch content, especially YouTube content these days, what you end up finding is this is going to stop you. You can't get ahead. You can't get ahead because this is going to stop you, where it's BS. It's fear tactics. It's scary. It's causing you to not accomplish the goals because they want to distract you and so forth. And just like Damien said, he stopped watching the news, but he succeeded in life. Maybe for those who are watching the news and are scared and think that there's the boogeyman that's out there that's going to stop them from getting the job, maybe they need to stop watching the news because there's no boogeyman that's out there that's stopping you from getting the job that you want. And we just had a success story of somebody who's gone through it and got the ultimate job that they want. So let's not have excuses for why we can't accomplish the things that we want to accomplish out of life. And I think that was a fantastic question that you brought up, KB, for us to talk about it, because it's our responsibility and our accountability to make sure that we achieve what it is that we want to achieve out of life. And we have nobody else to blame but ourselves if we don't get there. All right, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for dropping in today. Damien, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling your success story and how you've been able to overcome getting knocked down, man. Mayweather was all up on you, man. All up on you. Next thing you know, you hit me with that nice punch. I stumbled. And you won the fight, my man. You won the fight, my man. Well, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad to get out here and, give everybody else, if you're going through it, some hope. And again, if you know somebody going through it, reach out to them. Send them a text, call them, let them know you care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, you know how we do it. And until next time, y'all, peace.